Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. The lights were still on when she walked through the door, not dimmed like usual. I didn't ask why she was late. I didn't ask where she'd been. I didn't ask who texted her at 11:17 p.m. while she was locking her car in our driveway. I just looked at her. She was wearing the same coat she left in, but she'd buttoned it all wrong. She never did that before. She froze when she saw me on the couch, like I wasn't supposed to be awake. Like she'd rehearsed a different version of this moment where she tiptoes past me and showers away the lie. But I didn't speak. I reached over to the side table, pressed play on my phone, and then her voice filled the room. No, he still thinks I'm at the client dinner. He actually packed my charger for me this morning. Bless his heart. There was laughter. Then a man's voice, low and smug. Your husband's a saint. He's soft, she whispered. Safe, comfortable. You're the spark. Then more sounds. Unmistakable sounds. She stared at the floor like if she didn't blink, the recording might stop. Her face drained. Her knees buckled. She grabbed the edge of the wall like the drywall could forgive her for what I couldn't. Still, I didn't speak. But I hadn't always been silent. No, I was the kind of man who reminded her to take her vitamins, who left notes in her lunch when she had a big pitch, who celebrated every small win like it was a miracle. I had been loud with love, loud with hope, loud with belief in her, until I wasn't. Because when you uncover a truth that unravels your life in under 60 seconds, there's only one thing left to do. Let the silence say everything. And it did. What happened next, the moment the recording stopped and she tried to speak, is what turned this from betrayal into something else. She didn't say my name. Not at first. She just stood there. Coat hanging off one shoulder, mouth slightly open, trying to decide whether to cry or deny. Her eyes were locked on my phone like it had betrayed her, not the other way around. I had expected a scream, maybe an excuse, some pathetic attempt at spinning it into a misunderstanding. But instead, she whispered, Lowell, I can explain. I didn't flinch. I didn't blink. The silence between us was louder than anything she could have said. She took a step forward. Please, that recording doesn't mean what you think. Another step. I stood up. She froze. I told you I was at dinner, she added quickly, as if repeating the lie could somehow erase the proof still playing in the air. It was work, that's all. I turned off the phone and put it down carefully like I was handling something radioactive. Then I walked past her. She tried to block me, reaching out, her hand trembling, mascara already smudging under her eyes. Lowell, just listen, please. It was just one time. It didn't mean anything. I stopped walking. One time, I had days of recordings. Multiple days. Different voices. Same lies. I hadn't even played her the worst one. The one where she joked about how gullible I was. How easy it was to slip away for hours because Lowell always assumes the best in people. It's adorable. I've been called many things in my life. Quiet. Careful. Predictable. But adorable? That was new. I ironed your blouse the morning you left for that conference, I said without turning. The one where you said you barely had time to eat. You didn't come back with your wedding ring. Said you lost it at the hotel. She gasped softly behind me, maybe because she realized that wasn't a coincidence. Maybe because she realized I wasn't as stupid as she thought. I found it, I continued. Not in the hotel. In your gym bag, wrapped in a napkin, along with a receipt for champagne. Her breath hitched. She wasn't crying yet, but she was close. And a part of me, the old part, wanted to hold her, tell her we could fix it, that we'd go to counseling or read one of those marriage books with the pastel covers and hopeful titles. But the man who wanted those things had died about 27 minutes into that first recording. I walked upstairs without saying another word. Behind me, I heard her knees hit the floor. Not from grief, from panic, because she knew I wasn't angry. I was done, and that terrified her more than anything. You'll want to hear what she did next, especially when I thought she'd finally broken down in guilt. But it wasn't guilt at all. It was something far worse. I didn't sleep that night, not because I was too angry or heartbroken. That would have at least felt like something. What I felt was worse. Numb. Hollow. Like my own skin didn't quite fit anymore. I laid in our bed, fully dressed, staring at the ceiling while Rena stayed downstairs. I could hear her pacing, occasionally sobbing, talking to someone on the phone in that hushed voice she used when she didn't want me to hear, the same voice I'd ignored for too long. By morning, she was gone. Not like gone forever. Her car was still in the driveway, her purse on the kitchen counter. But she wasn't in the house. No note, no message, just her absence, hanging in the air like smoke from a candle no one blew out properly. I didn't call her. She came back around 8 a.m. Makeup smeared, hair tied up in a loose bun she always said she hated. She looked at me like I was the one who owed her an apology, like I had overreacted. She opened with, "We need to talk," and I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, nothing was funny anymore, but because of the sheer audacity it took to say that after everything. She sat down across from me at the kitchen table, her hands shaking. "Lowell, I need to be honest with you. I haven't been happy for a long time." That's what she led with. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I messed up." Not even a whimper of remorse. Just her unhappiness. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just nodded the way you nod at a mechanic who tells you your engine is shot. Like, "Yeah, of course it is. You already knew the car was dead before you brought it in." "I know I should have come to you sooner," she continued, twisting her fingers like she was playing with invisible rings. "But I didn't want to hurt you." I stared at her. "You didn't want to hurt me? So you lied for months? Slept around? Used my trust as cover?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Rena, you didn't avoid hurting me. You just scheduled it." She had the nerve to flinch. She started crying again. Finally. But I watched her face closely this time, and I realized something. She wasn't crying for me. She was crying for herself. For being caught. For the way her carefully constructed narrative had shattered too soon. For losing control of the story she thought she was authoring. And as she sat there wiping tears with the same hand that had touched someone else just hours earlier, I realized something darker. She still didn't believe she'd done anything unforgivable. Just inconvenient, disruptive, messy maybe, but not cruel. That terrified me more than the affair ever could. I stood up. She asked where I was going. "To get some air," I said. But really, I needed to get to the storage unit where I'd hidden the rest of the recordings. Because what she didn't know, what she would never expect, was that this wasn't just about her infidelity anymore. It was about everything she said when she thought I'd never hear. And I was done pretending I hadn't. The storage unit wasn't far. Just a 10 by 10 down the highway, the kind of place people rent when they're either downsizing or hiding something. In my case, I was doing both. I'd moved out a box of essentials a week before I ever played her that first recording. Not because I knew exactly what was coming, but because some part of me, maybe the last part that still believed in self-preservation, was trying to prepare me for impact. That box had my backup drive. The one that automatically synced the audio logs from her car. When I first installed it, I told myself I wouldn't use it unless I absolutely had to. But that line, "absolutely have to," kept moving. Like a goalpost in a game I never wanted to play. At first, I only listened to 5 minutes here and there. Then I heard the name Jonas. Then I heard her laugh like she used to laugh with me, but sharper, freer, like she wasn't pretending anymore. Still, there was one file I hadn't touched. The one from the weekend she said she was going to a company retreat in Palm Springs. She'd come home sunburned, relaxed, humming some tune from the 2000s. The kind she only ever played on our road trips. She kissed me on the head and said, "You should have come, but I know work, deadlines, all that." She even brought me a souvenir mug with a cactus on it. I put it in the cabinet next to the one that said, "World's Okayest Husband." Now, sitting on the cold concrete floor of the unit, I plugged the drive into my old laptop and opened the Palm Springs folder. The audio started with a car door slamming, then the shuffle of bags being tossed in the back. Rena's voice, light and playful, followed. "Do you think he suspects anything?" Another voice answered, male, confident. "Not Jonas. A new one. Your husband?" Please. I've seen houseplants with more awareness. Laughter. Her laughter. Poor Lowell. He probably thinks I'm networking. Technically, you are, he said, and then something unrepeatable. I paused the recording. Not because I couldn't handle it, but because I could. Too well. That's what scared me. How numb I'd become to hearing her treat me like I was some background character in a story where she was the star. It wasn't just the cheating. It was the contempt. The way she dismissed me like a bland cup of tea she sipped out of habit. Never enjoyment. I fast-forwarded a few minutes and hit play again. They were in the hotel room now, talking. After. That kind of tired, giddy conversation people have when they think they're safe. I should probably fake a fight with him soon, she said. Make him feel guilty. That way, when I disappear for a weekend again, he'll blame himself. That line didn't numb me. It gutted me. All this time, I thought I was too quiet, too boring, too stuck in routines. I wondered if maybe I wasn't romantic enough. Not exciting. Not manly enough. But she didn't leave because I lacked something. She left. Mentally, emotionally, physically, because it was easy. Because I was easy. I left the storage unit in silence, drive in hand, heart clenched in a way that felt final. Not angry. Not hysterical. Just final. And I knew exactly what I had to do next. Not revenge. Not drama. Just one small, precise act that would speak louder than anything she'd ever said about me. I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car outside a supermarket for almost an hour, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel like it was the only thing keeping me from unraveling. People walked by with carts full of groceries. Kids complained. Someone's dog barked from an open window. And I just sat there, trying to figure out how I became a man who couldn't even confront his wife without a recording device to do the talking. But what haunted me most wasn't what she said. It was the effortlessness of it. The way she talked about manipulating me like it was strategy, not cruelty. Like she was the CEO of our marriage and I was some underperforming intern she had to manage out of the company. I didn't want revenge. Not really. What I wanted was clarity. Closure. Not for her, she could spin this however she wanted. But for me, I needed to see how far she would go when all the curtains were pulled back. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I printed out a note. Just one line. Listen to everything. Then come find me if you still can. I slipped the note into a small envelope with a plain black USB drive. The one with all the recordings. The laughter. The lies. The voices. Everything. I knew she wouldn't check her car. She never checked her car. But she always checked the dishwasher. Every time she got home from work, she opened it out of habit. Sometimes just to see if I'd run it like I promised. Sometimes to pull out the one coffee mug she refused to let go of, the one her sister gave her in college. Big decisions start with small sips. That mug was her comfort. I placed the envelope gently behind it, tucked into the top rack between a salad spinner and the lid of a slow cooker we never used. Then I washed my hands, took my keys and walked out. I didn't leave a message. I didn't slam the door. I didn't even take a suitcase. Just my wallet, my phone, and the knowledge that she would eventually find the one thing she couldn't ignore. Hours passed. I stayed at a cheap motel outside town, the kind with scratchy towels and buzzing wall units that never really cooled the room. Around 11:40 p.m. My phone lit up. Rena, Lowell. What the hell is this? Please tell me this is a joke. I didn't reply. At 12:03 a.m. Rena, I don't even remember saying half of those things. You must have edited it. You're being insane. At 12:14 a.m. Rena, Lowell. Please, just answer. I'm scared. You disappeared. I stared at her words like they came from a stranger. She hadn't said, I'm sorry. She hadn't said, I was wrong. She hadn't even asked why I recorded her. She was just scared. Not for me. For herself. I powered off my phone, laid back on the hard motel bed, and smiled for the first time in months. What happened the next morning, when she finally tracked me down, is the moment this story truly changed. Because she didn't come alone. And what she brought with her, it changed everything. The knock came just after 9. Not frantic. Not aggressive. Just steady. The kind of knock that says, I know you're in there. I'm not leaving. I checked into the motel under my middle name, Curtis, and I hadn't told a soul where I went. So when I opened the door and saw her standing there, I wasn't surprised. What surprised me was who was next to her. Derek, her brother. The same Derek who hadn't spoken to me in 3 years after I didn't loan him money for a startup that turned out to be an offshore poker site. He was the kind of guy who floated through life on charm and half-truths, always landing on his feet no matter who he stepped on to do it. I hadn't seen his face since the Christmas Rena screamed at me for embarrassing him in front of the family. Now he was standing there, holding my wife's suitcase and looking at me like I was the problem. Rena spoke first. Her voice cracked. Not from sadness, but from the pressure of holding a script that was unraveling. Lowell, please? Can we talk? Not like this. Not here. I didn't step aside. He doesn't come in. Derek scoffed. Relax, man. I'm just here to make sure she's okay. Ironic, I said, since I spent the last 3 years trying to do exactly that. He didn't respond. Just stood there with that smug, practiced smirk like he was doing me a favor. Rena walked past me without asking, eyes darting around the motel room like it was a crime scene. She looked different, messy, uncomposed, and not in the crying, devastated kind of way. More like someone who'd been caught stealing and was furious about being exposed. She sat on the edge of the bed and clasped her hands like she was about to pitch me an apology she didn't believe in. I listened to the recordings, she said. All of them. I nodded once. I'm not proud of what you heard, Lowell, but you have to understand. I was lost. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore. We stopped being us a long time ago. Maybe because you kept giving pieces of us to everyone else, I replied. I wasn't perfect, but I was present. She flinched, just barely, but it was there. I know what I did was wrong, she said carefully, watching my face. But going behind my back, recording me, setting me up like that, that's not love either. That was when I realized something terrifying. She still thought this was a mutual failure. She still believed we were on equal ground, that my need for answers somehow made me the villain in a story where she'd been the one writing the betrayal. Derek stepped forward. Look, man, if you want to split, split. But don't drag this out. She's hurting too. I laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was insane. He hadn't seen the files. Hadn't heard her mocking me, plotting, rehearsing excuses. She's hurting, I asked. Tell me, Derek, how many times did she come to you while I was sitting at home making dinner? How many times did she laugh about what a safe bet I was? His eyes darted. She didn't answer. I stepped back and pointed to the door. Take your sister. Take her suitcase. I'll handle the rest. Rena stood but didn't move. She looked at me like she was seeing me clearly for the first time, not as the soft-spoken guy she could mold, but as the man who was done being underestimated. You think this ends with you walking away? She whispered. You think you can just disappear and feel righteous about it? I didn't answer, because I wasn't walking away. I was starting over, and the way I planned to do it would make sure she never played the victim again. But for that, I needed just one more thing. After they left, I didn't feel victorious. Just still. It was the strangest sensation. Like the storm had passed, but I wasn't sure if anything worth saving had survived underneath. Rena hadn't begged. She hadn't apologized in the way I needed her to. There was no collapse, no breakdown. Just defensiveness and a half-hearted attempt at guilt-tripping me into silence. That was her version of closure. But I wasn't finished. Back at the storage unit, I'd made copies of everything. Not to leak, not to shame her, not to destroy her professionally. I wasn't that man. But I needed to understand what had really happened. Not the affair, I already knew the mechanics of that. What I didn't know was how early it started. Or how calculated it had been. That night, I opened a folder I hadn't touched. Labeled simply, voicemails. There were dozens of them. Some accidental. Some intentional. Most were her calling Jonas, Brent, or whoever else was in the rotation. But one stood out. It was from nearly 2 years ago. The timestamp matched the night she came home from a girls' weekend. flushed and distracted, claiming one of her friends got too drunk and she had to take care of her. I remember how she climbed into bed fully dressed and curled away from me. I pressed play. At first, just muffled movement. Then, her voice, urgent, breathless. "I can't keep pretending he's enough. I know that sounds awful, but I feel like I'm suffocating every time he talks about his day or asks me what I want for dinner. He's so small, Jonas. Like his world is so safe. And I need to feel something again." My stomach twisted. I'd expected coldness, maybe even mockery, but this wasn't that. This was something crueler. The language of emotional disdain. She didn't just cheat on me. She shrunk me down in her mind until I wasn't a person anymore. Just furniture. Just a placeholder for comfort. And I'd loved her through all of it. Every dinner. Every grocery run. Every time I rubbed her feet without being asked. Every moment I thought I was showing up for her. She was busy erasing me in the background. I closed my laptop and just sat there. I don't know how long. Then, I opened a blank email and typed a single message. "I heard it all. I hope you remember what I gave you, because I never will again." No signature. No threats. Just the truth. But I didn't send it to Rena. I sent it to her mother. Why? Because for years, Rena's family looked at me like I'd won the lottery. "You're so lucky to have her," they'd say. "She's way out of your league." Her mother once joked that I must have caught Rena in a moment of weakness to land a woman like her. I always laughed along. I played my part. But now I wanted them to see the full picture. Not to hurt her, but to correct the record. To reclaim my name. What happened the next day, I wasn't prepared for, because her mother didn't reply. She showed up. And what she told me, it made everything so much worse. When I opened the door and saw her mother standing there, I braced myself. I thought she was going to defend Rena, shame me for sharing private messages, maybe demand I be a man, and sweep it all under the rug like so many others had suggested. But she didn't do any of that. She stood silently for a moment, then held up her phone. "I listened to the voicemail," she said. I nodded, saying nothing. Then she looked at me, really looked at me, and her face changed in a way I'd never seen. Not pity, not anger, just realization. "I had no idea," she whispered. "I thought you were just quiet. Turns out you were surviving." Those words hit harder than all the lies, all the recordings, all the late nights spent wondering what I'd done wrong. Because finally someone saw me, someone who mattered in her life. And for the first time, I didn't feel small. She sat across from me in the same motel room Rena had stood in, and told me things I never expected to hear. That Rena had always been restless. That she was taught from a young age to never settle, to always chase the next best thing. Even if it meant leaving people behind. That her father had done the same thing to her. "She doesn't know how to stay," she said softly. "But you did. You stayed too long. And I'm sorry we never saw what that cost you. It didn't fix everything, but it helped. It was the first thread of closure I didn't have to pull myself." A week later, I filed for divorce. Quietly, without drama. No press, no revenge, no viral posts. I left the house, the furniture, the coffee mugs, all of it. I took my books, my vinyl collection, and the one photo of me from before I met her. The one where I'm laughing, truly laughing, standing at the edge of the ocean like I had no idea what was coming. And slowly I rebuilt. It wasn't dramatic. There was no magical transformation montage. Just days where I started to breathe again. Started sleeping without checking my phone. Started remembering who I was before I was Rena's husband. And one day, I looked in the mirror and didn't see a broken man. I saw a free one. Now it's your turn. Share a moment in history that changed how you see the world. Something real, something that cracked you open. This is Reddit Confessions. And if this story meant something to you, subscribe for more. There's always another truth waiting to be told.